had me teach leadership, you know that my heart cringes not just for our world today, but particularly for tomorrow. My passion for raising authentic and visionary leaders is undeniable in all that I do. I remember 2 years ago when I first spoke about the concept of my book, The Leadership Guardian, with one of my mentors. She asked, "What do you want people to feel after reading the book?" My answer was very clear. I want the readers to be sober, become more aware of their awesomeness, and be ignited for 360 degrees transformation in every area of their life. The reviews from the independent readers of the Leadership Guardian has been overwhelming. The Leadership Guardian is truly a transformational movement for those who are tired of mediocrity and are ready to lead a 360-degree transformation in their lives. While I cannot wait for this book to grace your shelf, I most importantly cannot wait for the Leadership Guardian to grace your heart. Let me look forward to it.
Hello, super leaders. Thank you for joining us again on Leadership Chat with Top Business Leaders. My name is Kemi Ogunkoya, a leadership development strategist, management consultant, and author of The Leadership Guardian. And I equip business leaders to develop the right competence to perform effectively in their current roles and seamlessly take on higher positions. And it is great to have you here again. This series focuses on conversation around elements of the dozen model, a leadership framework that I developed, which consists of 12 key elements for effective and visionary leadership: clarity, connection, character, confidence, consequence, community, consideration, critical thinking, communication, competence, commitment, and consistency. And I bring to you top leaders who would engage with each of these elements and just help you understand how you also can interact with each of these elements for effectiveness and efficiency as a leader. And today I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Jaime Taets, and we will be examining leadership and clarity. We will try to understand the impact of leadership clarity on organizational growth, and I have no doubt that this will be yet another transformational event. So let's get to meet Jaime. As a CEO, public speaker, author, podcast host, and thought leader through every one of those roles, Jaime is focused on helping individuals and companies get past whatever is holding them back from achieving what they are capable of. Jaime's experience begins in a corporate role at the largest privately held corporation in the world. 13 years into that journey, she was comfortably uncomfortable, having held various leadership roles. Jaime recognized that her strengths and approach will be better utilized outside the corporate world. Stepping out confidently while facing her own fears, she left that job and launched Keystone Group International in 2013. Keystone Group International focuses on leadership development, organizational strategy, growth, and change. James believes that strong leadership and a culture resilient, leadership culture is the foundation for growth, and this drives her work with our clients. She inspires real and sometimes challenging discussions about the crossroad between high performance and healthy change. Her approach is a combination of direct and caring, not one, to step around challenges. She's willing to take challenges, and Jaime pushes her clients to dig deep. She calls out issues in their businesses and never lets them off the hook. She creates aha moments with them, and she is all about change. Wow. It definitely promises to be a great and phenomenal session, and I cannot wait to have Jaime right here with me. Hello, Jaime. How
Hello.
are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you here. I am absolutely looking forward to the conversation today. And, we're just going to get right into it. So, Jaime, we're talking about leadership and clarity. You have done this for so many years now. You have worked with leaders all around the world. You have helped them create fantastic results in their leadership expression, but most importantly, ensuring that this, transformation is significant in their organizations and across their organizations and also in their personal life. Now, Jaime, how exactly, or probably I start with this. What exactly does clarity play in this mix? In terms of ensuring that leaders are able to achieve their goals and then they're able to drive organizational growth effectively?
Well, clarity is the foundation. So if you look at the statistics right now, when we talk about leadership, and a lot of our clients, what they're dealing with right now is the great resignation, right? They're dealing with people, talent leaving their businesses. And the number one reason people are leaving, Forbes actually published this, was lack of clarity. So that clarity word continues to come up, right? And so people need that as human beings. We need that clarity and that certainty. And leaders' jobs are to provide that for their people, right? To get the highest performance. So you talk about organizational growth, it really starts with the clarity that the leaders can provide to the rest of the organization. And in order to be able to provide that clarity, they've got to make sure they're having the right conversations at the top of the organization to provide the clarity for the leaders. And that's where we see the breakdown a lot.
Wow. So if I hear you correctly, the leader first needs to have clarity, right?
Right.
To be able to transcend that to the corporate leaders and then cascade it across the organization. Now, I also get to work with leaders, and I've realized that sometimes even the leaders do not have that level of clarity. Now, how much clarity, is enough clarity? And what exactly is the expression of clarity that, leaders need to have enough to be able to translate that level of clarity across the organization?
Right. We talk about the analogy that I give to leaders is I want you to think about you're kind of in a fog and you know where you want to go, right? You can kind of, that's the direction you need to be pointed in, but you're in fog. The only way that you move through the fog is to take a step so that you can see another 3 feet. And that's clarity. It's getting closer to it, figuring out what that next thing is, and then you can see a little bit more. Right now, and I think leaders are struggling with clarity the most because we don't know the end answer to a lot of things that are happening in our businesses, to a lot of things that are happening in society and in the world. And so we're getting stuck and paralyzed. And the idea is that we need to listen to things like this. We need to learn and read and gain new information that helps us move to the next level of whatever we're trying to get through. So clarity isn't this like aha moment, I know the answer. Clarity is I know the next step we need to take. And perfect example, I was with an executive leadership team yesterday. They have a good, thriving business, but they don't have clarity and alignment on what the new opportunities that are creating themselves in the market right now. And they just needed to have those conversations to get aligned and to get clear, because then they can guide the rest of the organization. But when they don't provide that clarity for themselves and force themselves to have those conversations, how are they going to provide it for all the leaders in their care?
Absolutely. So I have worked with, organizations where they are 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and, right into that mark, they're having conversations around where exactly are we headed. We started out without so much clarity. We started out because we saw an opportunity, for example, uh, and we don't know what we're all about. We've been coasting along, but now it seems like we need to have that conversation. And that really makes me really love what you say about the fact that we probably would never have the full picture. And clarity is not about having the entire picture. It's about, being able to get to the next bend without seeing the full picture and then still going along. Now, why does that sound so simple and so difficult at the same time?
It is, because as leaders, we have twofold jobs, right? We're the ones that need to be looking at the vision, the long term, 3 to 5 years, where do we want to be? But we also have to provide clarity and remove roadblocks day to day for our teams. And so for leaders, you've got to be wired in both ways, and need to know when to use those skills. And why it's so hard right now. We have a lot of clients. We work with leadership teams on visioning and strategy, and we have a lot of clients over the last couple of years that have just said, I don't even know how we can think beyond 3 months right now with the pandemic and supply chain and everything that's happening in the business climate right now. And my guidance to them was, Our job is not to like hit the target 5 years from now, but our job is to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and to articulate that purpose and that vision and where we're going, even in the midst of everything we're dealing with today. And so, what we're trying to help them do is not set concrete goals. Like maybe you have a revenue target and that's fine for 5 years from now, but I want them more to describe to me what you want it to feel like and look like here in 5 years, right? More purpose driven. What are we working towards? And then let's focus on 1 year at a time or 1 quarter at a time, because that is where we can provide clarity. But if we get hung up in trying to be clear about 5 years from now, I think it paralyzes a lot of leaders.
I absolutely agree with you on that, Jamie. Yes, we want to be able to see the future, but you probably would not be able to see the future if we don't even know how to navigate the conditions and situations of today. So I absolutely do agree with you on that. Now, how can leaders who seem to have that level of clarity and let me probably set the premise for this question. So the leaders who have that level of clarity, right? They know exactly where they want the organization to be. They know what they want to achieve within the organization on their teams. They know their revenue goals. They have clear ideas on what the expectation over the next 2, 3 years should be. Well, hopefully they do. Now, for organizations where the leader has this level of clarity, and then the team members or constituents within the organization struggle to be able to grab that level of, understanding of the vision or the mission, where exactly do we find a balance around this? Is it possible to, keep moving on, assuming that people within the organization will catch up? Or what exactly do leaders need to start doing to ensure that they're not the only ones who get the vision?
Yeah. They have to break the vision down. When I say paint a picture, and it's funny, I've got a book right here. I'm going to pull it out. It was sitting on the top of my desk called Vivid Vision. And we give this to all of the visionaries, the top of the businesses, to say, you need to first cast a vivid vision. And a vivid vision can be a revenue target, but it's typically way more than that, right? We want you to paint a picture for the team on what it looks and feels like to achieve what we're trying to achieve. What most leaders feel like they need to do is they need to have KPIs and OKR. I mean, there's a million terms, right, for goals and different things. And that's not necessarily what people need to fully understand the vision. They want the pull at the heartstrings, purpose driven, like what are we trying to do? What dent in the world are we trying to have? And that's what the leaders need to focus on. And then departmentally is really where you put the plans together. And I think that's where most organizations go wrong is they don't put the plans together at the right level so that people can feel connected to it, right? Because if I'm an organization of 200 people or 200,000 people, I can hear your vision way up here, but I don't know how what I do each and every day impacts that. So the goal is to bring it closer to the ground, department by department, leader by leader, and make them understand what role they play in achieving the vision so that the people can feel like day to day they're part of something and then they see the bigger picture. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. So breaking it down, helping people see how they fit into that picture, because I agree with you that there's a lot of disconnect. Okay, and then the leader feels that what we have communicated, but then who
Right.
are you communicating to, and how are you communicating to them? So it's absolutely really important that we're able to break down these goals rather than there's this term in NLP, it's called chunking down, right? So we're able to give out this vision, this idea, in measurable sizes, such that the leaders are able to understand it. But beyond that, like you have said, be able to see themselves, see how they fit into the picture, and know exactly what they, where they come in and how they align or fit in the big picture. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for that, Jamie. Now, where does, because yes, we live in a world now, a new normal that has been characterized as the VUCA world. how does this impact clarity? So we started a survey in my organization, during the week. And some of the information we're trying to collect is to know how the COVID-19 has impacted and affected how much time people invest in their leadership development, right?
Mhm.
And it was quite interesting, some of the feedback. So people said things like, "Oh, it seems like there's a whole lot more to do now, and for that reason, they haven't had enough time to commit." For some, it's still trying to find their foot, in all of this, and quite a number of things. So I know that, in on the organizational scale, too, clarity is not spared from the effect of VUCA. So how are leaders able to, create a safe cushion for themselves to still be able to have that level of clarity within the organization, yet be in a place where they're able to respond effectively in this VUCA world that demands great vision and understanding and clarity and agility or adaptability as the case may be.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a great topic right now because we're seeing levels of burnout in leadership that we haven't seen right at this level. And leaders are examining it, saying, "Why do I feel this way?" And what we're helping them realize is that this busyness that we all feel, and I do this because we all feel it in our heads, right? There's just so much going on, and each day my list is so big, and then there's outside pressures, societal things going on. And what's happening is we're having this sense of busyness, but what it actually is a lack of focus. And so when we feel busy, it means there's just too many things swirling in our heads and we don't know where to start. We don't know what to do next. And that's what leaders are experiencing and that's what their teams are experiencing. And this is exactly where clarity comes in, right? Clarity and focus are what organizations need more now than ever to be able to get through what we're dealing with right now. And so what we're suggesting is we're suggesting leaders go back to daily check-ins, right? Daily huddles and stand-ups with their teams, which to some of them seem crazy because they haven't done that kind of thing in so long. But what they're realizing is 5 minutes with their people in the morning, checking in on Zoom, or if you're in the office, checking in with them and saying, all right, what's your focus for today? Right? And helping them decide these are the 3 things I need to get done. They are getting more done organizationally because of that focus and kind of that steady march. And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's providing them clarity on a day-to-day basis that just allows their brains to focus on what they need to get done that day. So that's been a huge difference for our clients.
I agree with you on that, Jamie. So I had this session with a couple of leaders in an organization, and I realized that a whole lot of them struggled in the area of clarity. Now,
Okay.
trying to understand what exactly the challenge was and drilling down further, there seemed to be a huge communication gap, and leaders were not meeting with their team members as often anymore. Neither were they engaging them as much anymore. Now, for that level of engagement to happen, there has to be some level of dedication in terms of time. You spoke about focus. There's a place of accountability and all of that. But then leaders keep saying things like, "There's no time, right? There's a whole lot to do with." So, how exactly are leaders able to overcome this challenge? Is there even any overcoming, right? Dealing with this issue of time.
We hear it all the time. So what you're saying is we're hearing it with all of our leaders is I don't have time, right, to help my people in this way and to time to spend with them. And what we're helping them understand is first off, you have time to do what you choose to do, right? So the time can be right. It's just like I give them the analogy that if I say I didn't have time to work out today, that's a crap. That's crap. That's not, I had time. I just chose to sleep in or chose to do something else, and that's fine. But don't say you don't have time to do it because you're making the choice. So first off, that is where we get real with them to just say, what other choices are you making? Or what choices are being made for you that aren't giving you that time? And then the second piece is, I think leaders believe that to coach their people and to do all of these other leadership things, they need to have like a different block of time to do that. And what we're helping them understand is every interaction with their people is an opportunity to coach them. Every interaction, whether it's in a group meeting, is an opportunity to provide clarity. And so it's just changing how we use the time that we already spend with our teams and the people that report to us, asking different questions in those interactions, right? Spending more time in those interactions, providing clarity and understanding, do they have everything they need? What can I do to make your life easier? Those types of things. And so it's carving out the time and figuring out what else you need to delegate or get rid of to be able to do that, because as a leader, it's your number one job, right? Is to coach and get the performance out of the people underneath you. And then the second piece is just redirecting some of the time you're already using and making it more of a coaching conversation to help people with clarity.
Thank you so much for that, Jamie. And there's huge alignment on the perspective that you have shared, because I hear it a whole lot of times, and I say it's not a time issue. You don't have time issue, right? You have priority issues.
Right.
And I also love what you said when you said that we look at the time that we're supposed to spend with our teams as though it should be additional time or time outside of work. But when we see it from a place of integration, we start to think about it differently, right? And we understand that part of our leadership also requires that we coach, we mentor. We're wearing those different hats as the cheerleader. We're wearing the hat as the, mentor. We're wearing the hat as the coach. We're wearing the hat of the counselor. We're wearing the hat as the accountability partner, as the manager, and we have to be able to wear all those hats and wear them, really nicely. So I wrote an article on Forbes recently, and it's called, do not get into the leader's dance trap, right? And I believe that a lot of leaders are dancing into their own traps.
Yep.
And one of the things I recommended is that as leaders, we need to understand when to be on the dance floor and then when to be on the balcony, because on the balcony, we have a more, a better view. And then we're able to look from the place of strategy, right? While on the dance floor, we're so into the everyday operations of the business, and sometimes we don't understand the impact of some of our actions and then our inactions on, on the growth and result of the organization. So I absolutely agree with you that leaders need to be able to refocus and re-strategize and understand that part of their leadership responsibility includes coaching and mentoring their team members to success. So that's really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm loving this conversation. I should mention that. Thank you. Now, Jamie, what do we do as leaders? Because I hear a lot of frustration from some leaders, and I hear things like, "Oh, you know what? I've tried, right? I've tried to help this person on my team understand the vision of the team, understand the mission of the organization. We've done trainings, we have mentorship programs, we have coaching programs. I'm running out of options. I need to kick this person off my team." What do you do as a leader when someone doesn't seem to be getting it
So
despite everything?
right. It is frustrating. This is the hard part about leadership. And if you're going to sign up to be a leader, this is part of what you're signing up for, right? It's humans. We're managing human energy, and it's difficult at times. And, one thing that we coach a lot on is changing the questions that you ask. And what I mean by that is when we get into autopilot, and as leaders, sometimes we do it. I mean, as humans, we do it, right? When you meet somebody new or you pass somebody in an elevator and you ask them, "How are you?" and they reply, it's very surface level. We're not actually asking them how they are, right? It's just a greeting. And as leaders, sometimes we get in that autopilot mode of just asking the same questions of our team. And over the last couple of years, as teams have been remote and leaders have had to manage in a different way, our guidance to them was ask different questions, right? What's the biggest struggle you're having right now? And then stop talking. and see what they tell you, right? Give me a positive and a negative emotion about how you feel about this project right now, right? Asking different questions turns on the brains of the person you're talking to in a different way. But if we continue to ask the same questions over and over again, we'll tend to get the same answers because that's the only way they're thinking. And so we're coaching a lot on asking degrees of strength questions, things that get people thinking about the future and thinking about how to solve problems. So I think that's the biggest and simplest thing that leaders can do. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, we've got a great list of questions that we give to leaders to say, just pick 2 or 3 of these and start incorporating them into your conversations with your team. Because the situation that you're talking about, I immediately go to, that person feels that way for a reason. There's something that's not connecting for that employee. And I just don't know if we're asking them the right questions. And so thinking about a different question to see if you can pull out a different response from them or help, I always say connect the dots. As leaders, we have all the dots connected on the vision. Our employees don't yet. And so our job is to help them connect those dots. So something's amiss when your employees aren't understanding, but I think it's just asking them, like, what are you struggling with when it comes to our vision? What don't you agree with? What can't you see? And just let them talk and see what they come up with, because you might find your solution in there.
Great, Jaime. Thank you so much for that. Now, so the conversation is it's moving forward, and I love where we are right now because we're at the place of self, right? Uh, Trying to pick out from that team, but then focus on the individuals on that team. As you have said, we're dealing with humans, right? Now, when we have people on the team who don't seem to be getting it, there may be some personal issues or some personal dimension to it. Now, in your book, you're here. You
Mhm.
talk about how people can get out from that place of being stuck, to finding that level of expression and liberation, and then being able to achieve their goals and their dreams. Now, let's bring that to the organization, and I'd like you to, also talk more about the book when you respond to this. Now, for those who find themselves in places where they seem to be stuck,
Mhm.
emotionally or on different dimensions, and then their actions or inactions are impacting, on the organizational scale. What are some of the things that they can start to do, right, to ensure that they achieve that level of turnaround?
Yeah. So you are here. The entire book is written around the moments in our life and our success that we get stuck. So I give guidance and just tips and tricks about those feelings of, like, I feel like I should be doing more. I feel like I should be further than this. I don't know the next answer. And so that you are here, it applies to leaders. It applies to us as humans, both in our personal lives and our work lives. And so I believe that action kills fear, right? Action gets us unstuck. And action can mean a lot of different things. So for my own employees, right, when I feel like someone's hitting a ceiling on a skill, right, or something they want to learn, or something we're trying to do as a business, it's knowledge, it's action, right? Find something, learn something new about that piece that you don't know or that you're stuck on, even if it's the smallest thing. It can be listening to a podcast, it can be reading a book, it can be reading just an article on Forbes, right? We both put a lot of content out there that's really good. Is the moment you do that, your brain turns on in a different way, right? And the fear or the thing that gets you stuck gets smaller, and your confidence gets a little bit bigger. Now, it doesn't solve the problem, but you take a step forward. And that's, I think, the focus here is that we don't need to know the final answer to what we're trying to do. As leaders, as individuals, as humans in our own lives, we just need to know the right next step. And I think leaders also get caught up in feeling like we have to provide all the answers to our people. And if we haven't learned anything over the last 2 years, no one knew the answers to some of the problems that we were dealing with. And I think we can apply that going forward in our business. Leaders don't need to know the answers. They need to know the next question to get somebody unstuck, right? To get the team moving forward again. And I just think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as leaders and on our people. And sometimes we overcomplicate it, and we just need to break it down to the next simplest move or step forward that we can make.
That's incredible insights that you have shared there. And yes, we feel like we're under the pressure, especially in this world where you sometimes don't even know where to turn to. But like you have rightly said, COVID-19 has taught us a whole lot, and we found a lot of people, in that, we had to ask ourselves different questions, really. And it was in the quality of the questions that we're asking that we, keep getting answers that can move us on to the next level. Now, within the organization, what exactly do we need to be clear about?
The biggest thing we need to be clear about is our expectations and accountabilities, right? So we can have, and we work with businesses on this, we can help them create a beautiful vision and a strategy for the business. But if we do not have clarity for the humans and all of the people in the business, and if they do not know clear accountabilities for themselves and for their peers and their team, it doesn't matter how great our vision is. And so that's the piece that really where rubber hits the road, right? Where we see the vision take shape on the ground is at the employee level. What do they have ownership of? What can they impact? Right? What are they clear on their accountabilities? Because clarity of that, we can achieve almost anything we set out to do if we focus on creating that clarity at the employee level in the organization. But that takes time. It takes work, and it takes translating a vision down to tactical, day to day, week to week things that help us achieve it. And so, again, that's the translation that leaders have to be able to make, is take this big nebulous vision and make it realistic right in front of us, and remind our people day in and day out the things that they're doing, even though it feels small, all impact this place we're going, right? Or this bigger thing. And so I think that's the biggest gap right now in most organizations.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Now, you have said something around knowledge,
Mhm.
right? And talking about the gap around knowledge too. How exactly does a leader get to that point of clarity to be aware enough and honest enough with self to say, you know what, I'm not really great at this. I need to, close the gap here. I need to improve my competence around this area. How exactly do leaders get to that place of awareness?
They hire you or I to help them.
Simple
And
and clear.
but I mean it, is I have a coach, right? Everyone needs a coach, and it can be a paid coach. It could just be a mentor in your life. It can be somebody in your organization, right? That's helping you. You need other people to turn a mirror, right? And kind of give you a different perspective on your blind spots, on your skills and your strengths and what you're really good at. Because I also think on the flip side, we sometimes struggle with self-awareness on our gaps and our opportunities, but we also struggle with recognizing our superpowers and how we can leverage those superpowers to do even more good, right? And you need other people to reflect those back to you, because oftentimes the things that we're good at or we're not good at, they're just autopilot for us. We don't even see them. And we need people around us. We talk about that gang of people that are around you that are helping you grow, right? They're the ones that are going to tell you after the meeting that your tone and the approach you took probably wasn't the most productive. And here's a perspective and another approach to take, right? You need the people that are going to be real with you, that are going to guide you and coach you. So that can be family, it can be a peer in work, it can also be a coach. But I don't think you can grow at the pace that leadership needs are going to need you to grow unless you have those people around you that can help. They can help you identify your blind spots.
Blind spots could be really costly, right? If
Yeah,
left unchecked, they could
right.
be really costly. Now, Jamie, have you got any experience just to bring this to life? in a particular situation where you have worked, where there was a transformation from that place of lack of clarity. Of course, I know you have a lot, but just help us with an experience where a leader was able to move from that place of lack of clarity, and then how they were able to move to the point of clarity, or they are on that journey of clarity, but then we're able to establish great improvements from your experience.
Yeah, we truly do this on a daily basis, and I'm not exaggerating. Yesterday is with the way you're taught. You asked me the question, I immediately thought of the session yesterday with these leaders. Is throughout the entire day. And again, I don't know their business. I know what they do, but I'm not coming in to give them answers. I'm coming in to ask them questions. They're so close to it. And throughout the entire day, they kept saying, well, there's another light bulb moment. Like I just connected, like I had never thought about it like that. And when I do that, this is how my team is probably perceiving it. Right. So it's putting yourself in rooms and in situations where someone's going to they're going to shift your perspective. They're going to shift your paradigm. And I think that's the goal for all of us, is to listen to things like this. Take one piece of something that we've said here today and let it sink in and think about how you can apply it, right? So that knowledge and learning, I think for a lot of us, it gets overwhelming, when really, if we simplify it down, it's pick one or two things, right? Out of the things you're learning and you're growing and you're listening to, and use those to help propel you forward. So that's what we're always focused on, is we just want those light bulb moments. Right? We know if that light bulb goes off, now you're open to other ideas, right? That might come in, and other perspectives that might come in. And so I think it's just focusing. And if you're in a role, if you're in an organization where you're not having those kind of moments, then you need to make those moments happen, right? You need to bring people together to innovate and to think differently, because sometimes some organizations aren't as great at that. And we need the leaders to actually drive those conversations.
I agree with you, Jamie. We need to have those conversations. We absolutely need to have those conversations. Thank you so much for that. Now, I want us to step out a little bit, from clarity, and then look at other areas that support clarity, right? In terms of other elements that are important for organizational growth, that leaders need to pay more attention to. We've said that clarity is the foundation, is the bedrock. We've spoken about the place of knowledge. We've spoken about the place of having more conversations in terms of enriching the communication experience, in the team and within the organization in general. We've spoken about the place of self-awareness. Now, Jamie, take us a little bit out of this to help us understand other supporting structures that leaders need to pay more attention to in order to achieve organizational growth.
I think there's a couple of things that leaders right now, given our current business climate, that leaders need to be thinking about and doing, and it truly does impact organizational growth. I think they need to look at themselves as a coach every day in the organization, and they need to assess their degree of emotional intelligence. People are dealing with a lot in our organizations. I read a study where they talked about the average employee gives us 40% of what they're actually capable of every day, right? They show up, they give us 40% of what their skills and their strengths actually are. And so every day in our organizations, we're getting 40% of 100% of what we could get from people. That is impacting our organizational growth. And so the job as leaders is to figure out, maybe it's not 100% every day, but how do we get more out of the people we already have? Meaning, how do we engage them in a different way? How do we understand their unique abilities and leverage their strengths to help the business? We oftentimes just get into execution mode where we're just doing the work. We're executing the strategy, but we're not taking care of the people. And the people are who actually get us to the strategy. And so it's taking those unique approaches and having high degrees of emotional intelligence to help your people thrive. Because when your employees thrive, you're going to thrive as a leader, and ultimately the organization's going to thrive. But we don't always make that connection. So I think that's the biggest thing right now is emotional intelligence, asking good questions and thinking of yourself as a coach first instead of just a manager that's there to get things done.
Mm. The world is changing, and so should our perspective, so should our expressions as leaders, and so also is the requirement for leadership changing. So it's gone way beyond you being a leader or a manager or having a fancy office. It's about how are you able to deploy skills that can help translate your people into super performers or high performance, or high performance, and actually being able to help people achieve, higher versions of themselves. So it goes way beyond just getting the job done. The great resignation is teaching us a whole lot, right? I spoke with someone today in a session who says, you know what? I just want to get out of my organization. I can't. I feel like I'm burnt out. I feel like I don't have enough time for my family anymore, and all of
Mhm.
this. So the needs of the organization and the constituents of organization is changing, and so should the perspective, the mindset, ideologies of leaders within the organization too. Wow, Jamie, we've had such a fantastic conversation. You have shared so much insights with us, and I'm sure that those who are listening to the show today we'll be having a great time. And every other person who will listen to the podcast would also have, so much to go home with. But like you have rightly mentioned, don't think about taking all of this and then grabbing it all at once, right? Chunk it down. Learn to don't get stuck in the urgency of wanting to execute all at once. Chunk it down and know exactly what you have to deploy at every point in time, and it's going to be fantastic, as Jamie has said. Now, Jamie, before we let you go, I want you to talk about your book a little bit more. Tell us where we can find the book. Tell us where we can find you. For those who would like to connect with you right after the show.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for the conversation, first off. These are the types of conversations that we need to have to just help normalize. And that's a word I use a lot. It's the reason I wrote the book. The book was to normalize those points of being stuck throughout our careers, throughout our success. And so you are here. It's the subtitle is Kick Ass Inspiration for Navigating Your Journey to Success. Is we've got to come together and be talking about these things because we all get stuck. Whether it's as a leader, it's in our personal lives. And so that's the purpose of the book. So you can go to jamietates.com. That's the easy way. You can order the book there. It's also on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pretty much any of the normal resellers of books. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook, Jaime Tates. We put a lot of great content out. We share a lot of leadership tips and articles. So that's just an easy way for growth, right? About the kind of taking that step forward is sometimes we just need to be reading and engaging in knowledge in a different way. So I would love to connect with people that way.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Jamie. We will absolutely connect with you. The website is, right at the bottom there. Please make sure you connect and, get the book and also other resources that you can get at Keystone, International Group. Thank you so much, Jamie. We've had such a great time, and, I look forward to connecting with you soon again.
Thank you.
All right. All right, guys, you have heard it there. Lots of insights. Make sure you turn this insights into actions. So till I come your way again, keep being phenomenal and evolve to being your best self. Take care and have a blessed week. Bye.